and welcome to Onesies, a podcast of one season wonders, blunders, and limited series. My name's Andrew.
And my name's Emily.
And we are talking about Chessgame, a 1983 British one season show with Terence Stamp. He's a knight, right? Probably. Maybe. Apparently, he only did this because he needed the money and he didn't like TV. So cool.
Who knew that? Who would know? Who would have been able to guess that he would have been a trailblazer in fucking must-see TV, golden age of television?
This is
fucking great.
This episode is. Did we already say the name? Enter Hassan.
Enter Hassan, yeah.
Great. Last time, I ended with the joke that we were going to get into their awkward Middle East. Well, not awkward, just overt. Anti-Middle East sentiment, but instead it's like not there in the same way. Like it's very weird. It's got a diverse cast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's totally different feel to it, but it is also a different book. So we're in the second book now. So.
Yeah. And he's not a sir. He's not been given any titles. Maybe he did and he just didn't accept them. Maybe he's cool like that. But
maybe.
Thanks for the extra editing.
Well, there's going to be more since we have to get into it because there's so much sexy. Well,
that gets into our three things.
Okay, let's start with our three things, Emily.
So my first thing, and this was before kind of went away, is locations. Okay. And then I have Isabel, because I was happy that there was another female character. And then after that, immediately I wrote boobs. And you're lucky I didn't send you a screen cap, because I did to my husband. And then my third thing, this is just a stupid thing. It was a line that Terence Stamp had, mustache, but I mistook it for mustache. Like
I did too. I thought it was a secret message between the two of them.
I know. It took me like a good 5 seconds for me to realize that he was saying must dash. It took me a good 5 seconds.
I still think it's mustache. Okay.
And then torture. Torture's going to be my kind of fourth thing, since I don't really have much to say about the mustache.
Ooh, there is some torture.
That was weird. It was unexpected torture.
Okay, so damn Robin Sachs. Yeah, that can be our euphemism for sexy men. A Zionist with Catholic tastes. Oof.
Oof, indeed.
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just stay on serious. We'll just do killer Israelis because that's coming up. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. All right, we got it.
So we open with a recap that focuses on Colin's death, which is nice, though a little bit uncool, though this episode is entirely about Colin's death, which is unexpected. Well, I mean, it's not, but that is the frame on it.
Yeah. That's how it kind of gets started.
Well, that's how it ends too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird. Oh, okay. The ending was so weird.
So weird.
It was so great.
But we open with the geese, and then we go into the house where Hugh, David, and Faith have just gotten done having sex. It's unclear. She's serving them breakfast. Yeah. They're tired. Whatever.
It's very odd that seems to be a weekend day, maybe. I don't know. And they're just having a casual breakfast.
Or is it immediately after last episode because they don't know Colin's dead yet?
Oh, yeah.
So they're hanging out the morning of Friday night, because they really needed to do better with the days on this.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think if you did it now, because
there's a scene coming up where like it cuts, and I thought it was just cutting to hit where there's a weird cut, and it takes a minute to realize that it's like later in the day or later the next day or something. Like it's really weird how they do the time on this.
Yeah.
That it takes it a minute to really fully realize what's happening.
But then Faith asks Hugh why he doesn't have a girlfriend or something. And
You're so good in bed, Hugh. Why don't you have a girlfriend?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I've got wow. Okay, that's where Terence Stamp would be. Okay. So it's because he's got a married girlfriend. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And then she asks, and then they announce they're getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've known each other for 6-ish days, possibly.
Again, it's hard to know with the timing.
Whether it's intentional or not, it really is like what if we did a Bond movie plot points, but played them all straight.
Yeah.
And so she asked them what they really do for a living.
I want to know what I'm marrying into, she says. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why did you agree to marry him if you don't know what he does for a living? And seemingly it's dangerous.
Yeah. Didn't somebody almost kill her a couple times already? Like she had a standoff with the Russians at the end of last episode.
Yeah, but she was just in the background. They didn't take her hostage. They didn't use her as collateral. They didn't try to turn her against Audley. She was just in the background. She barely had anything to do with it.
I'm sorry, I forgot that doesn't qualify as a traumatic event until the year 2014.
Yeah, it didn't register with her. She was probably filing her nails or something.
It's men's business.
Yeah.
Men's business. So yeah, and then we get the rundown on David, who describes himself as a soldier, scholar, and tutor. And you're just kind of like, and it's just like, fuck. And it's just like Terence Stamp, this one, he turns it up on, there's a whole other notch to it this episode.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But then the boss comes out, the Raiders of the Lost Ark guy, who is not the Raiders of the Lost Ark guy. His name is Nick. And he says, I need to talk to you. And
Hugh, like, to Hugh specifically. To Hugh. Yeah.
Except he says, I need to talk to Hugh. And you're like, to you? To Hugh.
A lot of wordplay in this, unintentional wordplay in this episode.
They can't fucking pronunciate over there. Learn to speak like a Californian. Thank you. Okay, so then there's this great scene where Hugh's like, Hugh, not you. Hugh is like, come on, Nick, we're just hanging out. We just got done fucking. Have a cup of coffee.
Come on, have some breakfast.
And he comes in and he's like, Colin's dead, you dicks. Like, yeah. What the fuck?
You guys just had the most wild threesome of your lives, but what you don't realize is that your buddy's dead. Your adorable Welsh buddy is dead.
Okay, so then we get some information about that and about the car bomb. This is going to be a thing that they think. They're like, why was he playing with Llewellyn's car? But it's still okay because he was doing it. He's not authorized to do it. He just wasn't assigned to do it at this time. But the boss seems to know that David and Hugh did something. Mm-hmm. But then the assumption, though, is that they found a car bomb meant for Llewellyn, the politician dipshit. So Hugh goes out to talk to Nick, and Faith and David are watching through the window, and she's like, holy shit, what am I marrying into? And David's like, woman, you forget yourself, for Christ's sake. Like, the romance has ended. Or is it hot when Terence Stamp talks like that, Emily?
I have no opinion on the matter.
You have no opinion?
I do not objectify men, but I do objectify women because we're going to talk about boobs. I was so excited. No, we can objectify Hugh too, because
we get to do that in a second. Because
yeah.
But is his shirt
his shirt is just always unbuttoned. Just all the way down to his navel until he goes to work, and then he puts a tie on and he's forced to button his shirt up.
It's wild. Hopefully there's going to be a Chippendales episode. Like, did Robin Sachs age well, or is this like, no? Okay, so this is, but don't worry, because if you like older men, Terence Stamp's going to show off for no reason later on. Okay, So after accusing them of staging this thing that got Colin killed, to which Hugh sort of agrees that David did it, but he didn't mean for Colin to get killed, Nick's like, okay, well, you need to convince him to be in charge of this investigation.
Yeah.
I, his boss, cannot order him to do it. You, his underling who spies on him and reports back to us, which he knows about, has to convince him to do it.
But he does it poorly. Remember, the guy said, Nick says, like, you haven't been reporting on David. I get it. It's a loyalty thing.
Well, he didn't, but he didn't report on the bugging because Hugh suggested that and then didn't take responsibility for it.
Oh, what tangled webs we weave.
Just these fucking dipshit British men. It's awesome. It's great. Okay. So the reason they want David to do it is because Llewellyn wants David on it because David knows the most about the Middle East, even though Llewellyn got him fired for liking the Israelis too much. Okay, I assumed Llewellyn was in with the Saudis. I think this was in the first episode. I told everybody that read up on the history, blah, 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 Lawrence of Arabia. No, he's in with the PLO. It's very weird. He's like in with Iran and the PLO. He's not in with the oil. He's in with the let's arm them against the Israelis. It's a weird flex for the thing. Like
it's an odd thing, and I don't know that this is in the book because I didn't read it, but I wonder if there goes into more explanation. I should stop saying that, just take it for read. That it's either explained more in the book or it's not explained at all in the book and it just goes away. But yeah, it's a very weird, very oddly specific thing.
I mean, is this, though, we have American bias on this?
Yeah.
Like, if you had supported you can't, I mean, I'm sorry, if we had a politician who supported the PLO, no.
Yeah.
If you say anything past, it's not good to kill Palestinians, that's it. So, yeah, in 1983, no, it would have been even more than that. So this is a little, there is also that thing, like maybe there were British MPs who supported that. Who knows?
And their political system is a lot different than ours. So, like, that might not be an issue that ever comes up during election, right? Yeah. If he's an elected official. I thought I was under the impression that he was some kind of cabinet member or something.
Is he a cabinet member? I don't think of him as
it doesn't so confusing.
So it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So Hugh goes back in and is like, how's it going? And David's like, he wants me to take that job, doesn't he? And he's like, how'd you know that? And he's like, who else could solve this case but me, Sherlock Holmes? So then there's like this weird conversation with him and Faith for a bit. And she asks him, are you looking forward to, he's going to do this and give Llewellyn his just desserts? And then there's this weird, like,
what did she say? She says something like, oh, he's a friend of yours. Like, it was really funny. It was a little bit of comic relief.
Yeah, and he's like, no. And she's like, are you going to enjoy this? He's like, oh, I'll get a certain satisfaction. To which, if you want to cut this, my note is, David gets his tip wet and he's in the game all of a sudden. Because really, we have gone from Terence Stamp being a nerdy British guy to, yes, he's white Idris Elba at this point. Like,
yeah, and also I had noticed after you had talked about it last episode that he is really in on this. Like, he is a spy and he's always been a spy, and he just knows everything about being a spy all of a sudden.
Yep.
Just all of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
This whole episode, he's
super spy.
I know exactly what to do.
Yep.
I know exactly what to tell people to do. I know how to work the marks.
I know how to run an investigation.
Yeah. I know how to trick my underlings into doing things, that they wouldn't. It's so weird.
Maybe the books have some more time in between, so we're getting character development implied character development, but we're getting it 7 days after the show started. Like,
Maybe.
it's also kind of what makes it cool. Like, it's kind of cool because we're seeing it ramp up in real time. We're
Yeah.
not needing 3 seasons to see Noah Wiley come into his own and get some respect from Peter Benton. Okay, so now we go to the briefing on the car bomb. Here's where they bring up how high tech it was.
Mm-hmm.
The thing Colin hit that we said, why the fuck would you touch that? Like, reflected off of a mirror that set off the detonator.
Yeah.
Meaning Llewellyn wouldn't set it off. The only people who would set it off are people looking for it.
Yeah.
Or installing something else.
Yeah. So it's kind of leading them to believe that it was meant for Llewellyn. No, not
no,
Llewellyn. Meant for Jenkins and not for Llewellyn. Or somebody in that role of Jenkins's role.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Right. We now have this mystery story.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at some point, Robin Sachs and Terence Stamp decide, well, we need Llewellyn to still think that it was meant for him because that's the only way we'll be able to continue this investigation. Literally, he only cares that somebody's trying to blow him up. He doesn't care that Jenkins was blown up. So let's make him think that it was meant for him so we can continue investigating this and get to the bottom.
Like,
it was
cool. Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice twist. And then this is where Terence Stamp says to Hugh, why, Hugh, under the Brill cream ticks a Jesuit brain.
I didn't understand the Jesuit brain thing.
The Jesuits are scholars if you're a snob. Like,
they're Catholic scholars, though, right?
They're Catholic scholars, but they're the only Western history of a bunch of stuff. And
gotcha.
In some ways, they are as of the histories that were being written of the peoples they wrote history of. Some might make the argument they were the wokest for 1650, right?
Oh.
Like, they observed more than they had a scholarly bent to their observations. I am going off of 24-year-old history, but I had a professor who had respect for 17th century Jesuit journals. So, and whatever. Anyway, so I thought it was something like, it's some snobby fucking thing. It's some boffin word. Okay? We're not fucking boffins. We don't write for Dracula the series.
Yeah.
Okay. We then cut to the old man meeting where it's just all the fucking old white guys. I don't know how you're supposed to. I mean, I can keep them apart, but it's like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's weird that I can identify so much distinction in identical looking old white men. But yeah, so Llewellyn's like, well, the Israelis are cross at me. But then Hugh comes in and reports to the boss, who is the guy who last saw Colin alive and gave him the okay to fucking go ahead with his plan.
Yeah.
That doesn't come back, don't worry. Very few people care that Colin's dead. And it gets more tragic than that, actually. Anyway, so Hugh comes in and says, David will do it. And they're like, well, you're going to fucking spy on him for us again, right? And the boss is like, oh, yeah, he's going to spy for him. And then Nick rolls his eyes at something Llewellyn says. Like, but it's like this really weird British eye roll where it like took the whole shot. Like, very weird stuff. Okay, so then what are we doing now?
So Audley comes in. David comes in to the room.
Oh, right. And we meet Austin Poor of Box 500, which seemed like it was going to mean something. Maybe next time. At this point, David starts talking about Llewellyn like he's not there, which is really funny.
My favorite part, though, was when Llewellyn admits, like, well, you're the top guy on the Middle East. And Audley says, so you already know who did it. Great. Good work. Like,
that should save some time.
Great. You already know what's going on.
So let's recap. At this point, we
Yes.
know that Colin was killed by the bomb that was set for somebody who is either going to be looking for a bomb or looking to tamper with the car. So it's either a
Yeah.
booby trap or it's a like because I think the car is bugged too or some shit like that, right? There might have been something else. Was it? We don't know. I mean, it would have been.
He was going to bug the car, wasn't he? Or just put a
He was going
tracker
to
in
bug
it?
the car too, so maybe it already was. We don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Because he had
but
just checked it for bugs like 3 weeks before. Remember, that was the
yes,
thing. He had just checked it.
and
So,
that was not there, which actually
right.
has not come up in the investigation timeline because we're going to get
Right.
distracted by our espionage story, which starts with the Scotland Yard guy who's just there being like, oh yeah, we arrested some Muslim kid like 4 weeks ago, and he said Hassan, and they're like, that's who fucking did it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this
It
is
was
how you're keeping the investigation going.
it
You're
was
just
very
gonna
weird.
grab on to this like silly lead. And
Yeah.
yes, and they're never going to acknowledge that they are taking over this actual investigation now. They're ginning up an investigation just to keep the ability to sort of look into Colin's thing going. But this is going to be the A plot because they uncover a master plot against the
Yes.
Western world.
Beautiful. What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. It's the thinking man's James Bond, Emily. Okay, so we then get a scene with Theo in a church where David's like, why are we meeting in this church, dude? Aren't you Jewish? And he's like, he actually says discreet location, but I translated it. And Theo's like, you could say I'm a Zionist with Catholic tastes. And it's just like, what the fuck did you just say?
It's weird. It's weird. This was also my first locations
Okay.
because there's a lot of shots of the choir singing and shots of stained glass and very ornate decorations, and it's very beautiful, very, very beautiful. If you like looking at churches. And but yeah, that Zionist with Catholic tastes thing was awfully odd. Um, and I wondered if choir boys go to choir practice fully dressed, like in the middle of the day, and people are just allowed to go listen.
Oh, well, thanks. I think you just gave Zionists with Catholic tastes a whole nother.
Oh boy.
Ugh.
Ooh.
Moving on. Oh fuck. Here's where we're actually going to. This would be my big third point, or my one of my 3 points, but I forgot that it was in here. This is where we're going to take a break to talk about trauma tourism. So David then asks Theo for information about Hassan. He doesn't know because he only does World War II, but then he gives him like a bunch of information anyway, because we got to keep the plot moving. By this point, I was just thinking this is a really good example of borrowing an underprivileged. This is like reaching down and sifting your hands in somebody else's trauma because it's a British. It's so fucking colonial. It's
Yeah.
the British using the trauma of Jews who survived the Holocaust, of the Israeli-Palestine situation. It's using it for popular entertainment, and it's kind of like, is it better to just fucking have superheroes in some ways, like because you don't have these ick moments where you're just sort of like stopping for a second being like, he's just making a joke about like fucking Palestinians getting killed. Like that sucks though, doesn't it? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's still what we do. We just do it differently now. But it's also how white people have made art for, I don't know, at least since the 20s. So anyway, moving on to, oh good, now we get the killer Israelis. The scene ends with David saying, I want to talk to my good friend Jake,
Yes.
who 2 nights ago had dinner with Llewellyn.
Right. Yes.
Yes. And Theo's like, I don't even know who that fucking guy is. What are you talking about? Maybe you shouldn't have fucking blown his cover, dude. And then he's like, I'm gonna be at his shop tomorrow.
So this is
So we cut.
this is where that weird cut is where
Yeah.
I like they cut and suddenly David is just walking around the street and I'm thinking, oh, he just left the church and there's some kind of farmer's market or something going on. That's kind of cool. Blah blah blah. Again, locations, locations, locations.
Mm.
But then I realized, oh, there's the bookstore that he was talking about meeting the guy at. This is actually the next day. Or whenever he says he's going to be there.
He says tomorrow, I think.
Yeah,
so
tomorrow at
4:20. But this does also cover for the fact we did not see Faith and David talk for 3 hours about him meeting her parents.
Yeah.
As her husband to be, not their interrogator. But here we get David goes to the store. There's a lady in there. And he's like, this doesn't seem right. He leaves, and Jake comes from across the street. Jake's got some great sideburns in this shot.
Yeah.
Like, this is the last time we're ever meeting. And he's like, you're getting married. And David's like, oh, you know things. I need to know about Hassan. And this is where they start saying, you haven't heard of him yet, but you will.
Yeah.
So this is how they explain that David, the Middle East expert, knew nothing about this guy.
Yeah, so this is another like kind of swap out what we were talking about before about how he was never a spy because he was a teacher and he was this and he was that. And now suddenly the Middle East expert knows nothing about this guy who's got terrorist cells all over. Like he just knows nothing. And it's like, dude, you've been out of the job for like a week.
Yeah.
And how
And let's also not forget that kid was arrested at least 3 weeks ago, meaning it should have been in David's like brief on terror shit.
Yeah.
Just saying, Terence Stamp, maybe concentrate more on your work and less on Twitter talking about Brexit. Okay. So falling flat here, everybody. Emily does not think I'm funny on a Saturday.
Does
David Audley have a blue check mark?
Hypothetically speaking, no. I don't think David Audley would be on Twitter.
Does Hugh have a check mark?
Yes, because he's an RAF man who's just happens to be working for MI5. And so he's to not blow his cover, he's still on Twitter. And he has a blue check mark because he's a military guy. So he's all a white man. Yeah.
We're all going that way, folks. That's the end. Will Twitter die before every white man subscribes to a blue check mark? Okay, so then the bookshop blows up.
Which at least caught me off guard. It was great. It was incredible.
Show the woman scurrying out and setting up. They at least maim civilians, maybe kill a baby. And then David's walking around stunned, but also like not too stunned because he's a fucking spy. Like, let's not forget.
Okay, I forgot to mention this. He looks really fucking good in that suit. And then after the bomb explodes, his hair sticking up like crazy. It was so funny because he looks so sleek. That suit is so nice. And then his hair goes nuts, and it was great. But he does look stunned. I was kind of shocked. Yes. And then Jake
gets on a Vespa.
Yeah.
On the back of a Vespa and is like, David, you need to check out the Ryle Foundation. And zooms off.
Yeah.
They've just cleaned the bookstore with the blood of British babies. Okay. End part one.
End part one.
Awesome. Now is where we actually start the real episode. Because this is actually Hugh's episode.
Yeah.
Hugh's got the art.
So, and again, between part one and the beginning of part two, just cut straight to a Ryle Foundation event where some boring old man is talking. Mr. One Foot in the Grave, Richard Wilson, is just blathering on and everyone seems bored out of their fucking minds. And we see Hugh in the audience. They close up on a few other people, including the guy whose name I forget, who we will meet shortly. And I don't even know where to look for my IMDb. There it is. Very odd scene. I feel like maybe I'm not paying close enough attention because I zone out because it was boring as shit. But The mustachioed gentleman, who we will meet again shortly, stands up and starts clapping, like gives the guy a round of applause, and
leads the round of applause.
to which everybody else stands up, but it doesn't
Yes.
seem like the guy was actually done talking. Did you get that?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I thought he was waiting. I didn't think he was done talking, but I thought he was waiting for a little bit of applause or at least some acknowledgement. But fuck no, he got like clapped off.
Yeah,
'Cause
he
we gotta
got
go
clapped
on with
off.
this scene.
It was hilarious. And Hugh is mingling, kind of. Does he meet the
Kind of,
mustachioed man first? Yes, he meets the mustachioed man first. And then we meet Isabel, right?
Yes. And so Hugh lies to the mustachioed man, who's not on IMDb, which is bullshit because it's also his episode.
Yeah, he was great.
So they, have a little bit of espionage banter and stuff, and then off they go. Off the guy goes, and Hugh goes to see Isabel. And he's like, Isabel, I'm so surprised to see you here. And she's like, my fucking husband is Ryle.
Yeah.
And Hugh's like, oh, oh. And you're just like, well, I mean,
stupid white men.
it really helps when you realize
he does realize, he does know that her husband is the guy, but he just didn't expect her to be there with him. So got to give him a little bit of credit. He knows who his mistress's husband is.
Though it seems like there should have been some acknowledgement of this some other way without it being a surprise, like a wink about have fun at the Ryle Foundation.
Yeah.
Well, especially since they cuck the guy later, which we need to get to. Okay. So, oh my God, there is a fucking weird ass cuck scene in this. It is so fucking strange. Like Robin Sachs is like, no, fuck that guy. So we have some banter between them, and he's like, I need to see you tonight. And she's like, I'm here all night. And he's like, I don't care, I need to see you. And she's like, oh, fine, Hugh. You're my RAF man, aren't you? So then we cut to the office.
Yeah.
So David and Hugh can talk about how he's going to get some play tonight.
Yeah.
And there's a refrain from coarseness comment that there's like David does some intentional double entendres to like make Hugh uncomfortable, right? Like it's very weird. Then Hugh tries to convince David that David should let him take Isabel into their confidence, meaning to use her as an asset.
Yes.
Making her a Bond girl, making her Bond girl number one in a Bond movie, or one or
number two, because we've got what's her name, Faith, already.
Okay, good point. Yes, the daughter can be Bond girl 1. So Bond girl 3 should be a villain, so we won't get her till episode 5. Okay, so Hugh's like, I'm going to call in a security thing. David's like, you don't need to call in a security thing. I trust you. And David's like going off after he talks on the bat phone, the red phone for something. And then Hugh calls in the security. And then Hugh calls in the security and finds out that David has already gotten her cleared.
Yeah.
Because this was his plan all along, to use Hugh and his relationship.
Yes.
Now we cut to the swimming scene. See, Terence Stamp wasn't happy with people thinking only Robin Sachs had a good fucking
that only Robin Sachs's clean, tan, hairless chest was the one we wanted to see. We wanted to see a real man who's...
So we get to watch Terence Stamp and Jake in a steam bath, where Terence Stamp then starts working out. And at some point, Jake is like, this is a really fucking weird place to meet, man. Like, why are we here?
Yeah, didn't he say something like, next time we should meet where all good spies meet, at dinner or over drinks?
Yes.
Not at a fucking bathhouse.
This is where I was like, a little bit of man crumpet.
Trolling for man crumpet.
Okay. But now we find out all about Hassan.
Yes.
car bombs. So that ties it into Colin. It has something to do with the Syrians, the new men at the Syrian embassy. And then we cut to Hugh. Is this your boob scene? Yes, it
Yeah.
is. This
Yeah.
is
We cut to a ton of flesh. And it's like, oh my God, it's finally happening. And, eventually the woman rolls over and you see her pert breasts in a way that only on British television. It's like completely unsexualized, in my opinion. Maybe my opinion is different than others, but she's just laying there, just post-coital conversation, just hanging out, like we do with our tits out. I don't know. It was great. I was so happy. I love seeing boobs. I'm always so happy.
There you go. So then Hugh, who is also in a state of undress and quite fit, is like, so by the way, can you spy on your husband for us?
Yeah.
Also, I got you cleared with MI5.
She was already cleared. She was already cleared. Remember, he called on the phone to ask, and he was like, "Oh,
she was already cleared," but he told her.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he tell her that they got her cleared? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, "You took me to bed first before you did this, Hugh." And he's like, "Damn it, woman, I'm talking about the death of a friend." She's like, "I don't believe you.
You still got hard. You still got hard. Don't stand there and pretend like she needs to be like, oh, so prim and proper about it. You still got hard, buddy. Your friend is still dead and you still got a boner.
Blue Colin to bits.
And I only got hard
for Queen and Country.
This is the first time I got a boner since Jenkins died. Fuck off. Fuck off.
So so then he convinces her. I have a note that says all projection on. Oh, the fucking husband gets home. That's right.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
Convinces her, and then we get the cuck scene. Oh my God. So does Hugh, the spy, crawl out the window? Does he try to sneak out later? Does he hide? No, he goes downstairs
and has a close talking conversation with his girlfriend's husband. Presumably,
who is that?
Just pussy all over his mouth and just
you could
inches away.
You could just smell it all the time. It was 1983. That's what everybody thought 69 was a great idea. It's everywhere.
I can smell the sex on him. I can smell the sex on him. And he's just having this incredibly close conversation to the point where I thought that it was on purpose, that the husband knew about the affair and that he was doing it on purpose to make him feel uncomfortable.
What about what he's like? You should come over more. We love having you here. Next time, bring your girlfriend. Maybe make sure she's not neglected. That is a thing. I won't neglect your girlfriend is the line. No. This is.
I'll neglect my wife. I'll neglect my wife, but I won't neglect your young girlfriend. Presumably she's young.
Somebody in the writer's room was like, no. We really gotta the old white man with the unfaithful young wife. He's our demographic. We need to have him get a zigger in.
But also it made me think that everybody on the show is polyamorous. And
it does because it feels that way.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had at least 2 scenes this episode that have implied that.
Yeah. Okay. It's very weird.
Then they go outside. She's like, I'm going to walk him to his car. Aren't I nice? So we can make out in front of our house. But then she sees men down the street. He sees men down the street. He tells her to run into her house. And we get a scene where it turns out there's a bomb on Hugh's car.
Seemingly. They see weird people behind them in the shadows.
Foreigners.
On the street. Foreigners.
We don't say that, though, because Isabel's not as racist as Faith and David.
And Hugh notices that his car, which he had left not in
park or drive or something. Yeah.
That was it was now on a different thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that.
End of part 2.
End of part 2.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Part 3.
Oh, the end of part 2, the scene with the other different mustachioed guy walking up to the car and then like leaning with his gun. That was beautiful. I almost took a screen cap of that too. It was so gorgeous. It's just so stupid. And I loved it every second. It was great. Anyway, end of part 2, beginning of part 3. Hi, Gregory.
End of part. Okay, so part 3, we open with a briefing on Hugh's car bomb and how it's not really a car bomb. It's an explosive without a trigger. And the reason that this is this way, because it was done by the Syrians, if you were paying attention, they were the ones who were good at the car bombs.
Yeah.
It's because they just were making an introduction to Hugh. This is how spies do it. And I'm like, it's not how they did it in the last 2 episodes, guys. And that was only a week ago, but whatever. But then we get Nick, Raiders of the Lost Ark not guy, being like, hey, David, maybe you should investigate whether or not they're trying to kill Colin. And David's like, oh, fuck that shit, man. That's a terrible idea. Why would I do that? And he's like, well, I mean, just to be thorough, also, I noticed that you went through all of his effects yesterday. And David's like, well, yeah.
Leave no stone unturned.
Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah.
Then David gets a phone call from Faith. And she's like, where the fuck were you? And he's like, how dare you, madam? And she's like, David, we were meeting my mom and dad. And he's like, oh, well, I'm busy, Faith.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you still going to marry me? He's like,
are you going to show up at the wedding? And it's like, oh, dear God.
I'll call you Mustache.
Yes, this is the mustache thing where he says mustache as in the hairy upper lip facial hair. But what he means, I just thought, like, much like you, I thought it was like a code word. Nope. But no, he was saying, I have to go. I must dash. I was so confused. I was so confused. I was so confused. I was like, mustache.
They're going to get married and he's going to start calling her mother.
Oh, dear God.
We then cut to Hugh having a date with the Syrian intelligence guy. He comes over to his house. They have some refreshments. They look at Hugh makes war miniatures because all British men are actually 9-year-old boys. And then they like bond over Hassan information and the story of how the Syrian guy was once rescued by a badass Israeli paratrooper back in the day who wouldn't let the other Israelis kill him just because he was Syrian. He was a prisoner of war, and this dude stuck up for him. And who was that badass?
Jake Shapiro.
Which is hilarious. It is the action movie we did not get with young David Krumholtz. Like, David Krumholtz. What if David Krumholtz was like, they treated him like Oscar Isaac? Could you handle it? Do you need to sit on a towel? You do. You do. Oh, it's over.
I love that I said that to you about your wife going to some movie like 10 years ago, and you still bring it up. The sitting on a towel. The sitting on a towel thing.
That was Wolverine 2, by the way, everyone. Wolverine 2.
That was so long ago.
The one where he fights with his shirt off for 78% of the movie at the age of 45.
Hey, he looks good.
He looks good. I
wish Krumholtz looked that good.
Oh, come on, Krum. You know what? It's your objectification of him that probably led to this boomerang.
It had nothing to do with it. I don't go online. I don't tweet at him. I do follow him on Instagram, but
it's under a burner. It's fine. Okay, so then we cut to the torture. Go.
Yeah, so we cut to what's his name? What's his name again?
It's Theo. Theo is a master torturer.
We cut to Theo in some room. It looks like an apartment turned war room, right? Bunch of guys at phones hitting buttons and da-da-da-da. And in the distance, you see some guy hanging by his appendages his arms and legs, having water dripped on him, maybe? I have no idea. But they're torturing this guy for information. Just out of nowhere. And Jake is there too, right?
Oh yeah, it's Jake. It's our hero paratrooper Jake. And it's like, oh yeah, you guys didn't realize Israelis just torture the fuck out of little kids? What?
It was shocking. I was shocked. Because Theo's such a cute little man. He kind of
does he have a knife at some point? Yeah, like he's a fucking torturer.
That was nuts.
Yeah, it's yeah. I are they gonna make no anyway. So then is it no, then we have our cut to the old man having a conversation with Llewellyn. And they talk for a little bit. Oh, we're not going to ruffle any feathers. This will be important next episode.
Yeah.
But then we cut to the funeral, which is Colin's funeral. Which
didn't really go noticed. Like, I mean, not that it didn't go noticed. I didn't know whose funeral it was. I assumed it was Jenkins. But again, the time, nobody had been talking about him really. You know, there was a scene where Robin Sachs was told, you need to go tell his family. We never saw that scene.
We never saw that.
So you see him with a little old lady with a walker.
Did Robin Sachs fuck her to comfort her when he told her?
Okay. No. But you see a little old lady with a walker, and it's like, what are we, who is this? What's happening? I don't recognize this woman.
That is Colin's aunt. She took care of him and his brother.
Right.
Except his brother's fucking dead, which nobody mentioned last episode. That's how Hugh knows the brother. The brother died in an accident, and Hugh survived it. And David tells this to Faith in like just like this dispassionate way where you're just like, fuck that Jenkins guy. At least you made it out. And you're just like, they can't help it. They don't hear how they sound. And it's just, they really can't help it. Like we watched Automan. Automan was not this unaware of itself.
Yeah.
Like Automan. But then what happened?
Shoot 'em up happens. I don't know. It's like just out of nowhere, you hear gunfire. Llewellyn falls to the ground. I assumed he was dead.
I think he's down.
There's a very belabored slow motion scene where the known spies are crossing like ducking every which way. It seems like maybe they're going to try to jump in front of a bullet or something. I have no idea what's going on. Audley is just standing there with Faith, and they're just kind of looking around. Somebody comes and tackles them. Was it Robin Sachs? To get them,
was it Nick?
Or was it Nick? I don't know. Somebody comes and tackles them, and it's very strange. But again, I was going, it was so exciting.
I was like, we only have 2 more endings like this because this is like last time.
Yeah.
But then we cut to the aunt.
Yeah, and she's just standing there
in the gunfire.
Yeah,
and I'm just kind of like, she should be moving. So
she could very easily just let go of that walker and fall to the ground.
Is there a chance that she was the target, and we find out next episode she was a crime maven or something?
It could be, because didn't they say that she had worked for the agency?
She did work for the agency.
What if it's all connected? We'll see.
Crossed.
I'm so excited for the next episode.
Yes.
Let's see. And I'm not at the wrong thing. I didn't get to it the right way. Okay. Episode
The Almet Ambush.
Oh, the Almet Ambush. That's the name of the book.
And Almet is something in the story too. It's one of the MacGuffins.
Okay. A lot of new characters in this one.
Or are they just appropriately crediting people? No, I recognize that name. John Horsley. Why do I know that name?
A lot of new people in the Almet Ambush. Yep. I'm very excited to see how this wraps up and then read the book. I love these books. I've got a story about that for after pod. So anyway, and do you have anything else to add? That was a great episode. We saw boobs. We saw
this was a great
an explosion. We saw a gunshot, like crazy gunfire at a fucking funeral. A lot of mustaches.
Gunfire at a funeral. Mustache. Mustache.
Mustache.
Oh, damn it. Mustache, Emily. Mustache to television land.
I'm not doing that.
You are. I'm getting you a t-shirt. I'm getting you a t-shirt. Mustache to
I spent so much money at DragCon yesterday. I need to I need to cool it. So much money.
But
each one of those
look at the
pictures
stuff.
costed at least $20. So Jesus Christ.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us and listening to episode 3 of season 6 of Onesies. Join us next week when we discuss episode 4 of Chessgame called Element Ambush with a whole bunch of new characters, including some ladies, maybe some boobies.
I wasn't going to say it, but I knew you would.
They're always there. Just remember, whether they're clothed or not, they're always there. I think Janelle Monáe's had a very bad impact on me this week. All I can think about.
Okay. Relax. Uh-oh. Wow. Okay. All right. All right.
Well, Andrew, see you in television land.
Emily, see you in television land. Mustache!